Hey everyone, welcome to the Unreal Engine Twitch live stream for the week. This is our first Thursday stream for the new year. So for those that missed the Tuesday stream, hope you guys had an excellent break if you got one, like we did. Today we got Mike Fricker, Ray Davis, and James Golding all the way from the UK here.
Yep.
We're going to talk over, all the cool stuff that's happening in 4.7.
And beyond.
And beyond. And take a look at some news. So with that, let's hop over to it.
That's graphic.
Who's doing the hopping? Okay.
And our first marketplace release of the year is now out. Every week we try to get new cool content out to you guys on the marketplace, and so this week's got new animations from Kubold. You've probably seen a lot of this guy's stuff on the marketplace already. It's excellent work. There's a bunker pack environment by Archer. I'm not going to try to pronounce it.
Go for it, man. Come on.
It's no.
It could lead to a major international incident. We should probably.
We got Modern Furniture by Tim Bebo. 20-plus gun impact materials by W3 Studios. A collection of really cool space skyboxes in here.
Those are hard to make.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, these look really, really cool. So we're excited about those.
Cool.
And then there's a sci-fi UI sound pack from Vulcan Sahin.
Sweet.
I'll let Tim that one.
Sahin?
All right.
Sahin?
So
Cool.
next order of business, GDC. So similar to EGX and other events we've had in the past, we've got we got some demo pods for licensees to come show their games. So we're opening up for submissions now.
Yeah, I would say the current plan is we've got quite a few pods. I want to say at least 6 right now, potentially open. I don't know the whole number.
Let me see what we got.
Did we commit to something? But the cool thing is, like, they're like, with the current plan, it's going to be right there front and center on the booth. So it's a great opportunity to show off and get some attention and get some feedback on your guys' projects. And we're definitely very excited to see, every week we're always showcasing the great work of the community, and this is just sort of the next evolution of that. So please send your stuff. If you don't get accepted, it is all Chance's fault. He is the final judge and jury on this.
Pretty much. I'm actually the only, not the final.
Oh.
I just the email address just goes straight to my inbox or to my trash, depending on the day. So no, I'm just kidding. We're really excited to see what you guys are building and submitting. So we're really looking forward to having you guys out there with us.
Yep.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. So for more info, just head to our blog. We've also got a forum post about this too, where you can ask further questions and I can get on there and try to answer them. But yeah, so that's gonna be great.
Yeah, in general, it'd be cool to know anybody from the community planning to attend a GDC. We're still trying to figure out what exactly we're going to do, but we'd love to figure out how we can meet up and talk. And
There's going to be a lot of people there, not just folks doing support, but a lot of folks working on the engine, on the floor talking about stuff. And last year was fantastic when we released stuff, and we had a lot of good conversations on the booth. Be able to pull in that lead graphics guy, lead physics guy, and
no, it was great because especially so many people are like, hey, can you help me with blah blah? I'm like, oh God! Oh, there's James. Let me grab him. Pull him over here. He can answer.
He wrote that thing. It's all his fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but it was fun. It was
that was
great.
EGX for me.
Yeah.
Oh God, James. So cool. Awesome. Yeah, let us know if you'll be there. We'll come by and say hi. We'd love to meet everybody.
It's one of the best times that you can interact
It
with.
really is.
Because
GDC is such an incredible show.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a spectacle.
I'd also say we're already starting conversation on our T-shirt designs. Where are those at, Chance?
Well, let me finish the Game Jam T-shirts first, and then we'll start talking about those. And with that segue, onto the first monthly Game Jam of the year. We're going to kick it off next Thursday on the stream, so be sure to hop in. We've got the forum post up now where you can start saying cool and hit up the countdown clocks.
Nobody's responded to you yet.
It has. This is from earlier when I originally posted it. I wanted to preload these things so it's not spinning rainbow on there.
So professional.
Yeah, every once in a while I do
Yeah,
something
little
that's
fail-safes.
really great, right? And so that's what we got for the news, and we'll move on to our community spotlight.
Oh, the fun part. All right.
So this is a game called Nebula from Bruno Gruber. I've been kind of watching it for a little bit. He's been posting things to Facebook and a couple of images on our forums. But
I haven't seen this one yet.
No.
yeah, it's a side scroller Metroid style shooter.
Metroidvania, right?
Yeah,
It's cool lighting.
Yeah, it looks pretty stellar.
That's awesome.
He originally put up like 5 or 6 GIF images, and I'm like, I need video, want to show, one of those things.
Are the chair guys in town yet? We need to show them this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's neat.
Little PDA mini map.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So there's puzzles, exploration, all that kind of stuff. It's really great lighting, as you guys have said. Visuals look nice. Jetpack, Ray. I know you like jetpacks.
That is every game jetpacks.
Which reminds me,
game. Yeah, which reminds me my Christmas break game. I didn't put a jetpack in it yet. Shit. I will fix that.
It's all right. I think you have a few laying around jetpack blueprints. I mean,
I found about 6 or 7 different ways to make a jetpack now on Unreal Engine 4, so which is good. I've been trying to convince marketing to rebrand our engine about jetpacks.
About jetpacks.
Yeah.
It is the future now. It is 2015.
I know, and we still don't really have them.
Oh, how about our game jam? It should be hoverboard, right? Or self-tying sneakers. Right?
Yeah. Self-tying sneakers. That's pretty good.
It is the year of self-tying sneakers.
I saw those at CES actually. No, I didn't.
Oh, really?
It's got to be this year, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that hard. Come on.
Wearables, right? Wearable tech. No. Anyway, so Nebula looking really cool.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
There's he's actually discussing it. You can see some of the other images here with some different sections, but full discussion on how he's building the game out.
Is it just one person?
From what I can tell, it's just
Holy shit.
He's named as Bruno here, and everything I've read, even his NDDB is listed as Bruno.
As
so
Bruno.
Cool cinematic bits as well.
There.
Yeah, he's got the whole package.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not broken up into like screens like Shadow Complex.
Yeah,
seamless.
Yeah, I'm seeing more of this. It's just really nice, like people putting GIF images that are lighter weight instead of having to record a full video.
If only he could submit his game to something that we could show it off at a show.
I don't know. Oh wait, like at a trade show?
Yeah, like a developer conference, huh?
I think there's one in this year sometime at some point. Anyway, cool stuff there. So let's go on to. This is a.
Oh yeah, I did see this one.
So this is Ghosts and Goblins, but not the name, really, right?
Yeah.
This is a
something like that.
This is a student project.
A reinterpretation. How about that?
Out of Montreal's NAD.
I do want to call this out.
Yeah.
It's a dead zombie thing, but that was a beating heart. How's the blood still pumping?
But the effects look good.
I
He just eaten a beaten heart earlier.
Oh, see, there you go.
Let's
you must
see if we
be
can
an
go full
engineer.
screen on this. Hide some of that white.
Used to come with excuses, right?
So how many?
Oh wow,
This is a
it looks
student
amazing.
project.
It's got
right?
this like Bayonetta kind of combat going on.
Yeah, this is 7 weeks, 8 students.
Nice.
Do you remember the sword throw from
Yeah.
way back in the day?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, the only thing that this makes me believe that this is not Ghosts and Goblins is the guy's still wearing armor and he hasn't died 6 times.
Yeah, he's not in his underwear. That was the most frightening moment, right? It was always miraculous when you managed to make it to that next suit of armor.
Yeah. Yeah, and you knew that it was only a matter of time, though, that it was gone again.
I remember growing up playing Ghosts and Goblins. We finally beat it, and it was some version of it where you actually had to beat the entire game twice to truly beat it. It was.
Is this a bad dream you had, or?
No. There is a version. I don't know. It was the most cruel, mean thing a developer's ever done.
That
other
game,
than make Dark Souls. You know.
That game and the Wind Tunnel and Battletoads are the 2 things that have scarred my childhood.
God, that's like PTSD.
Yeah.
Wipe that away.
8 students, you said?
Yeah, Montreal.
8 students.
Nice.
So
Looks great.
yeah, and that school just puts out some really cool stuff, and you can give these guys a high five on our forums. They're
cool.
showing some screens. Yeah,
specific great things. Environments.
Yeah. So cool. Let me close out this guy and this guy.
The next one.
So, Deadlinger by Sandswept. This is one that just kind of came across our radar. That's a game that they're porting over to UE4. They're switching engine and coming our way. So, it's really interesting game. I mean, it's a big open world zombie game, survival
horror, right?
Yeah, there's they've got like a long history of blogs and updates about their game that you can kind of come through here and see on their website, old concept art and things like that, and the things. So they just announced that they're switching it over. Awesome. They're available on Steam Early Access, though it's probably, now that they're just now switching engine, there's probably going to be some significant changes
Take
coming.
A few days,
yeah, very quickly. But yeah, it's something that came across our radar. We're really excited about it, and so we're going to keep our eyes on that, and we think you should too. Really cool stuff from these guys.
Cool.
And the last one we got today is Galaxy Heist. So this is a Space Bear development out of the UK. I actually met with Ryan at EGX. he was like, "Hey, I'm Space Bear Dev." I was like, "Oh yeah, I know you." I was like, "How's your game?" He's like, "Oh, it's looking awesome." And so finally we get some screens from him.
Cool.
It's really interesting game because he's got space combat, but it's first-person shooter combat when you try to board other crafts and then go in and take them over. So he's He's been working on it for quite some time. There's a team of 5 or 6 guys. Rama's on that team. It's all kind of.
Wait. Where's the rainbows then?
Yeah, I know. There's not enough color here, right? No, it's he hasn't mentioned who else is on it here, but it's highly skilled people involved in the community that we'd probably know if he brought them up. So
cool.
We're going to see a lot.
So
more.
it's like a distributed team.
I believe so. Yeah. Well, Rama's in I think New Jersey,
yeah.
and he's in London. So Ryan's in London. Cool. So this is really cool, and he's got a little bit of the space combat right here. They're just kind of showing the big ships and switching between turrets and space.
I know. So this is meant to be a multiplayer experience then?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Online FPS.
Very cool.
Yep.
So yeah, they're really active
cool.
on Twitter and the forums too. Like if you want to follow the development process.
Good old debug sphere. I've used you many times.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I love that. Rama for the win. Fear his beard. Indeed. Indeed.
Indeed.
And his hugs. Rama's
I hugged him once.
We love you,
great.
Rama.
Cool. Awesome stuff.
Yep.
All right. With that.
God. What was it? No, it just reminded me of the UT space. What was that one? Was that UT3 or 2K4?
Which one? The space.
Didn't Phil do that?
Which one?
There was like a giant space attack mothership thing.
Oh, that was UT 2003, the assault mode.
Was that 2003?
Where you fly the
yeah.
spaceships
Oh,
and then
yeah,
go
it was
inside.
crazy.
Yeah, that was like.
That was a long time ago.
That was a few folks. That was.
I remember that blew my mind, right? Because it was nothing like I'd ever seen with UT before, right?
That was crazy.
It's a long
13
time
years ago.
A long time ago.
I think at least half our development time went on that one map because it had all the things.
I can imagine. Yes.
Space fighters.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, cool. With that, I'll kick it over to you guys.
So
we can
Mike,
start talking
community?
about fun stuff.
Well, actually, okay, yeah, I'll start with the community stuff real quick. So I want to highlight, we're going to talk about 4.7 today. And one of the things I always like to mention is community contributions. We have almost 40 going in for 4.7, which is great.
Awesome.
We had 4.6 was unprecedented. We had over 80 in 4.6. This is a slightly shorter cycle, and we had the holiday break. So
only 40.
But 40
still, still 40
awesome.
is pretty significant, right?
And honestly, some of this is our Epic's fault because there's a backlog.
We try. We
What?
try.
There are pull requests that are still sitting there.
No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
We're
so
on top of everything.
but yes, thank you so much for your contributions.
Yeah.
Stephen Whittle, let's see, I'm going to go rattle off some names. We had Rama, Bozero, Akuro, Slonopotamus.
Yes, Slonopotamus.
Yeah, and at least 11 others, so thanks guys, really appreciate that. I saw today on GitHub we have over 5,000 code forks now, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We're catching up to the Linux kernel as far as forks on GitHub, and we're not even a public repo right now, so
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Yeah, and
That's
you know,
awesome.
obviously with 4.7 we introduced our expanded preview process. Or, you know, we've seen quite a bit, and we've been focusing on how do we get more stability in our releases, and how do we make sure that you guys, you know, more and more as we move further along. You know, we're almost a year anniversary now. There's a lot more projects active today that we want to be cognizant that, you know, we're not disrupting or breaking as we upgrade new versions. So really appreciate the people that have been providing us feedback. You know, we've been tracking the known issues. I think Preview 2, we got it out, I had to pull it, but now it is actually going live once again.
Yep, should be live right now on the launcher.
And there's, Steven's got a really great thread that goes over what made the Preview 1, crossed out what's fixed in main, and what's in Preview 2. So I think I had a link to that too. We can pull it up.
Yeah.
Just real quick to kind of show some of the cool progress of it.
And over the coming months, we're, you know, going to look at how we can automate. We can actually share it up. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Shelly, can you come back over to the monitor real quick? Awesome. So
the release notes here are a little bit, they're not quite exhaustive. That's so some of the cool stuff we're talking about today, like you probably don't might not even know about because
these are more just specific issues found
for
that
the
we're
preview.
addressing,
For the preview builds.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
the list at the top that
Yeah,
shows
yeah.
like
Oh,
here's
yeah,
kind of like the high
yeah.
level. That's kind of made really early on.
Yeah.
Before even the releases was kind of ready. So
Did we ever talk about how much time we spend
Yeah, I was
on
gonna
actually
say,
making those release notes?
Mike will attest that it takes a very long time to
Release notes take
put
a
all the
long
information
time.
together.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
because
it
there's not just obviously just listing it out, but putting the right context on
Yep.
it so you guys understand, you know, what it is, how it impacts your projects, right?
We've been writing a whole tool internally just to help us build those notes more
Yeah,
effectively
a
and
release
stuff.
notes tool.
It's a big undertaking.
No, we
Yep.
we literally do have a release notes tool. I mean, we've got so many engineers working on the engine these days. Plus, with the community contributions, it is a big task for us to keep ahead of all this. And then, and also, there's a lot of moving pieces as far as like an engineer checking in a new feature. Well, you got to let QA know, and not just the fact that code was checked in, but what it's supposed to do and how that interacts with other things. And then, of course, like our doc team too, right? They know, hey, this needs new tutorial or new whatever. So it's a pretty big process.
And I think we understand too, even though it's already a lot of work, we still have a ways to go to hit the quality bar that we're happy with the release notes, and make sure, like Ray was saying, like, we don't want to be breaking your projects. We want to make sure if we do change something that affects you, you have the heads up as early as possible, and figuring out our best practices so that we can get you that information in the release notes. It's something that we're still ironing things out.
It's amazing. I'm always interested in the forums when I hear that people have had problems with the release. I mean, we take any kind of breakage, any change that breaks someone's project really, really seriously. And so we want to make sure that that only happens when we've made a conscious decision and we've really clearly communicated it, and there's a really good reason for it, which we can also communicate. But again, that's a process that we're getting better at.
Well, and honestly, we continue to have a lot of discussions of like, hey, there's some big changes we want to make, forward-looking, like, Mike, the C++, like the syntax stuff that we think will be really valuable. But being really deliberate about when we introduce those and giving people enough heads up so that nobody's caught surprised and we're not breaking any reasonable amount of previous versions, right? Reality is there are always going to be some big changes, like when we actually move forward with Niagara, we're calling it Niagara, our new VFX tool that replaces Cascade. We'll come up with a more appropriate name, I hope someday, or maybe that's it.
It is a big waterfall.
It is a big waterfall, yes.
We're trying to pick names, or put a little more time picking names, so that you think maybe particle system when you think of these names. So we'll see.
Particle system editor. How much time did we spend back on the day on Kismet?
I think it took about half an hour on thesaurus.com.
There were a lot of easy rejects.
Okay. Wasn't it called scriptwriter for about half an hour?
Well, the other thing I want to make sure we mention, like I said, we're tracking known issues, and we'll continue. We have the team updating these live as you guys report issues and find them, and as we address them. And then, as I think we've mentioned in the past, our long-term goal is we use Jira internally for both feature and task and bug tracking, and we want to find a way to make that publicly facing as well. So you guys, the moment my ideal flow is you never have an issue. The engine's perfect, never crashes. But on those rare instances that James wrote some bad code.
On the rare instances I write some code, it's going to be bad.
It's going to be bad. It's pretty rusty. But right away from submitting the crash report, you get a ticket. You can follow it if it's and see when it's addressed and all that good stuff. So that's our vision. But realistically, we're still a ways out from there. But
moving in that direction.
Cool.
Should we talk about new stuff in 4.7 then? And then we'll get on. We'll also talk about some cool stuff coming beyond, which we're really excited about too.
But then what are we going to stream about later? I'm just kidding.
Well, we end up changing your mind.
Well, how about the VR effort here?
Right. So, every build we add new VR features, and we keep up with the latest Oculus SDKs, and I think we're on the latest beta SDK with 4.7. So we added a cool button right where you'd go to click play. In that drop down now, you can click VR preview, and if you have a HeadKit plugged into your machine, the editor will pop up a window right on your VR device, and you can play and preview your game in VR right there without having to do any kind of monitor shenanigans or launch your game standalone like you might do right now.
That's nice.
So it's just like a one-click, hey, I want to play in VR, rather than just play right inside of the viewport.
God, that reminds me of
It's really cool.
I think my first attempt with a DK1 or DK2.
It
was like, do I need to rotate, like portrait, landscape, this monitor, that one?
Or like it would just be on the headset and you're trying to find the window to close.
I literally, close one eye, that was great.
I'm very glad that
we're
the
beyond
VR has moved on in the last.
And that's the goal that I want from the engine is like it just you click the button and it works, right? As much of that like complexity, the same effort around Android, right? The ecosystem there, developer kit and getting like as much as we can absorb that pain for you guys, I think that's the big win, right?
Cool.
Did any of it? I know like Nick Whiting's been pushing a lot on some of the other there's a lot more to getting a project running well in VR, and I know we had talked about like similar to what we're doing with the mobile, like hey, here are the things that will cause pain depending on the device and the type of experience you're targeting. Is any of that in 4.7, or is that still a bit further out?
There's been improvements with every single release for device compatibility and what we call, I think it's called the platform readiness
Yeah, platform
UI.
readiness, yeah.
So that's in there. It was in 4.6 and it's been improved somewhat in 4.7. But I think like there's a lot of Android improvements in 4.7 coming. I was going to rattle them off later on, but
Sure.
I mean, we could just jump around right now. It doesn't matter, right?
Android's better.
Yeah, Android's better. You can actually use Android. You can build and deploy Android for Mac now, which is something that we've been wanting for a long time.
Yeah, it's super nice.
So you don't need Windows.
So does that
anymore.
make both mobile platforms for both major OSs can deploy to now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Super awesome.
Yep,
Yeah, yeah.
that's right.
We've got the full matrix.
Yeah.
Yep. Android's just faster. It compiles faster.
Yeah.
You can deploy faster. All the I believe it's called APK file.
Yeah.
All that generation is now internal now, so
Great.
we don't have to do. Before it was like spinning logs upon logs of stuff
Yeah.
as we go and generate these files. So now it's much quicker. We added support for Splash movies on Android, so you can play startup movies.
Oh, cool.
And we got rid of all the weird like. You had to choose which type of texture format you wanted. When you were launching like DXT or PBRTC.
And then sometimes it's like, that one worked well. Let me try this other one to see if it works any different. Oh, it does. And really?
Which five-letter acronym am I looking for today?
It just
exactly.
cluttered the UI too.
Yeah.
It made it confusing. So it automatically figures that out for you now. So
That's
that should be good.
Cool.
And trying to think. I think that's the main stuff for Android. Aside from ongoing device compatibility and tons of bug fixes, which you'll see in the final release notes.
Yep. Cool. Ooh, visual logger. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, this is one that I haven't seen myself yet, but
Okay.
my understanding is that you log. Do you know about this one, James?
I don't know as much as I need to play with it, and I've been making it a huge.
We had
amount of
something
work on
like it back in UE3, so I guess this is a UE4 version of it. But it logs AI output. I think you can log just about anything if you opt in.
Yeah, well, I saw Joe Graff on one of the projects there, had annotated a bunch of, I think it was the AI events and whatnot, right? And it was very cool to be able to see it scrub.
And you can choose each pawn that's running around, each AI that's
Yeah,
running
yeah,
around,
and it
to
made
go
it
back to all the
awesome.
events.
super easy to backtrace, right? Yeah,
So
that'll be a very
I
helpful
remember
tool.
the giant Gears AI logs, which were just
Dude, I knew
huge
those.
text files.
I was like, what do they call it? Like the horse? I was like the AI whisperer for Gears.
The AI
400 megs of
wizard.
AI
No,
logs.
no, the other one was good. Was the script VM, right? Like I could see that call stack of exact call function, you know, and it was like, oh, that's a branch to a local variable to.
I'm very glad we have better tools.
So yeah,
these
this
days.
is
It's
a great
gonna
optimization tool, so you don't have to do
No,
that.
the funny thing, I feel like some UE4 developers are missing out because they actually have like debugging tools, right?
You're
You know, like
missing
the
out
magic
on the real the
yeah,
full
no,
experience.
well, printf
right?
debugging for
Yeah.
many years was the option, or just suck it up and let it crash. I guess.
Is this your get off my lawn moment?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we should definitely make sure we show that off in a future stream.
Yeah.
That would be a cool thing. I know they've been doing a lot of work on it.
Yeah, and I think the full release notes will explain it probably better than we did.
Yep.
The other thing we added was the project launcher. We had project launcher before. Actually, we had it forever. It's like used to be called UFE in Unreal Engine 3, and this is kind of the incarnation. I mean, we had UFE, but this is the launcher part of UFE in the editor. It lets you launch on different projects, different platforms, different configurations, in different cultures, all from the editor. You can package. It's basically like your one-stop shop for like, hey, I want to run my game 2 instances of it on different platforms, or package it for 4 different devices so I can send it to my friend. It's just like a kind of like a one-stop shop for just getting your project all packed up and,
Oh, it's
and
front
testing.
end.
Yeah,
UFE. Okay, sorry, I didn't know the acronym.
It's
for
UFE,
front
but
end. Yeah.
it's had a UI overhaul, and it's available right
usability
inside
patch,
the editor.
right? Yeah.
So right where you click like launch, in that drop down, it now has project launcher, and that gives you all your goodness. And you can create
Super
profiles and reuse the profiles. So yeah, so that's in now. Before it was in experimental land, so now it's actually a real boy.
I want to call out UFE. Do you remember this? I actually made it was my first C# app. I made
thing?
UE Unreal Launcher, I think I called it.
You made that thing.
No, I literally made the first I just made like this little tray icon that I could do like shift click or control shift click to do different behaviors. It was arcane. But that's how these things start.
You and your war stories.
I know.
Yeah.
That's all I'm good for. Sorry. No. Come on, you're older than me when it comes to Epic.
I guess that's true.
It is true.
I guess that's true.
Okay, so what else should we talk about?
I was trying to think of a lot of embarrassing things about games.
And then you realize the libel laws are pretty strict.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Okay, so next we had on the list was some rendering improvements for 4.7.
Some rendering.
Just a couple.
Just the ones I wrote down scribbled down for the stream. So you guys a lot of people noticed when we released the preview that we had improved foliage rendering. And it's one of the things we called out, I think, in those notes, that we can render, I think, like hundreds of thousands of times more instances, or not times, but hundreds of thousands of instances now. Pretty
Times of one instance.
Yeah, times one of pretty good performant foliage. So that's in, but we didn't go into details on it. It has some other cool things going on. We added an LED system, and the LED system has kind of this cool screen door crossfading. It's like a dithered crossfade that happens kind of over time in a pretty clever way. So that's in with it too. It just happens automatically if you have LED set up for your foliage meshes, and so seamless crossfade, that's cool. And the editing experience before got a little chuggy if you tried to have a lot of foliage instances. I think a lot of this was just because the old system would have it would take regions of foliage and make new scene proxies, their own a high overhead on the CPU. And now instead all the foliage in your scene is kind of just one thing to the engine, and the rendering thread takes care of all of the culling, all of the LED transitions, nice. All of the bringing in foliage that's in view versus out of view, all that kind of stuff. So it's all kind of been rewritten under the hood. And we're using it on some stuff now, and we're getting some great results with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, much more performant. It looks good.
Yep, and we'll keep at it too. It kind of, I might as well mention it now, it ties into a cool thing coming in the future too, where we're going to add a grass renderer. Well, we'll probably get a better name than that. It'll be a dedicated system for drawing and dealing with maybe pushing it around and all this kind of cool stuff, but just grass, kind of ground clutter, very, very small level stuff. Not the bushes and trees, but more just stuff that's waist height or lower.
The last I heard, that's going to be material driven. So you'll be able to sort of, when particular materials are blended in on the landscape or something, there's all kinds of crazy plans going on.
And that's probably a lot more performant than actually having to do it with the mesh.
You don't have to place them at all.
And that's another thing too that I've noticed quite a bit in building, just in terrains, is that part is the one that I always lose all my performance, is when I'm starting to place those waist high and lower stuff. The stuff that you might see really close to your face when you're looking at it.
Yep.
Anyway,
so that's coming. We might see a version of it for 4.8 hopefully, but for 4.7 we have the good foliage stuff coming for hand placed.
Yep.
Cool. See what else we got here for rendering.
The mobile preview and editor is officially up and running. Yeah, super useful.
Yep.
Cuts down the iteration time quite a bit since you no longer have to deploy, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I used it yesterday. It takes. The first time you switch it on,
it's got to compile the shaders, right?
Yeah, it compiles a crap load of shaders because it's basically pretending to be a mobile device, but it's compiling the shaders as if it would for iPad and then routing them through DirectX or OpenGL if you're on Mac. So it takes a while that first time, but then they're all saved. So going back and forth takes maybe 5 seconds. No, not even 5, maybe 3 seconds back and forth on my computer.
Cool.
And then you see the results right there in the viewport, which is pretty sweet. It's just one click away.
That's awesome.
Other rendering stuff, so we added this is popular request, an option.
For a while.
Yeah, so objects can self-shadow, or only cast shadows onto themselves rather than the rest of the scene. So this ends up being useful for first-person weapons, where you don't, maybe you're not drawing the character itself, but you're drawing a weapon in front of the camera.
So it's floating.
Yeah, but
floating with a couple arms.
So, previously people had to resort to just turning off shadows so they didn't see weird things, but so now we have that option on any component, any primitive component, I should say. The rendering guys added support for importing HDR textures. Before we could do this with cube maps through EXR format, and now we can do it with just any 2D texture. That's in too. And then the last thing I was going to mention for rendering is we added better control over translucency sorting. So now in your project settings, you can set how you want translucency sorting to work, whether it's based off distance to the camera plane, the camera itself, radial distance, or distance along a 2D axis if you're making a 2D game. So those games have maybe layers of translucency with an orthographic camera or something. So, but that's pretty much it for the big rendering things that I noticed today for 4.7. But some pretty good stuff there.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. So Linux moving forward.
Yep.
We can actually package Linux games now.
Yeah, this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
So now on Windows, you get the Windows release of 4.7. I don't think it's on Mac yet. I have to double check. But on Windows, you can package a Linux game and send it to your Linux friend, because unless you're using Linux, then you can try it too. But basically, you can package it from Windows, and it should work.
That's awesome. Do we know what platforms we're kind of targeting? I know that was was it Ubuntu?
CentOS, Ubuntu.
CentOS.
Actually, the last I heard from Dimitri, I mean, this isn't the editor we're talking about. This is the runtime game. It has pretty good compatibility already on the major distros.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Super cool.
And then the ongoing work on the editor, once you guys get the release notes, you'll see there's been a lot of improvements to the editor on Linux that are always ongoing, and the community helps us out with this, which we love you guys for. Thank you.
Yes.
Yep. And then I guess we'll mention, since we talked about Android before, I'll mention that iOS also is getting that sort of deployment iteration time improvement love, similar to Android. Different improvements happening there, but the platform team said that you can kind of you can iterate as quickly as 10 seconds in kind of the best case, making changes on iOS now, where before it was quite a lot longer than that. So 4.7.
It was 11 seconds before, and we got down to 10.
Yeah, so it'll be a lot better for iterating on your mobile game now.
Let's talk about blueprints. My favorite.
You want to go? You want to do this one, James?
Sure. So there's been, you know.
Wait, does James know blueprints?
What's
James invented blueprints, and I'm not lying when I say that.
I guess they're my name.
What were they called before? Content or no?
You
had the whole
designer
made classes. Yeah.
K2 thingamajig, right?
Oh, it was K2 for a while.
Yeah.
If you look up the definition of K2 in Wikipedia, it's giant and unconquerable, and that's how it felt for a while. So yeah, blueprints. I've been working on those for a while, but it's mostly Nick Whiting and his team who are focusing on them now. But they've been doing some great work on that stuff. So they've been working a lot on performance for blueprints, both the compiler performance and the execution performance. So the VM, the virtual machine that actually executes. So I'm sure most people know, but when you build a blueprint, you build this graph, it compiles down to what's called bytecode. So it's not all the way down to like machine code like C++ does, but it's these sort of instructions that the engine processes. Well, we've been optimizing the way that our virtual machine that processes those codes works, just to make them run faster. So it hasn't been like earth-shattering improvements, but trying to reduce some of that overhead and get a bit more performance out of that runtime.
Just keep chipping away at it.
Yeah, it's a sort of a gradual process there.
Yep.
But the compilation stuff has been really huge. There's been some great stuff where we've avoided needing to recompile some of the time. So when you add, when you just make connections and things, we don't have to do as much of a recompile. So we can skip a lot of the work so that you won't get hitches nearly as much as you used to. So that's pretty huge. Local variables, which was something we added a couple of releases ago for functions. You can now set default values for those. They're not always just 0, which can be really nice. You don't have to start every function with a whole bunch of set nodes to set up some variables.
Here's a good one. When you talk about default values, when are we going to allow you to access default values of classes?
I know that's on the list.
On the list.
It's on the list.
Okay. That was a big pain in the ass.
I mean, it's a big thing in C++, right? It's useful to be able to go, class, default, get default object, get thingy.
Well, and I assume most people, this is what I end up coming to, is create a whole factory to create like a special one version that I don't really exist, but I can query.
No, it's definitely gonna get there. So set nodes now, I think this is something that we've talked about before, but set nodes now have a return pin as well for the value, so they're basically a set and get in one node.
It's so nice.
So how about an increment?
Yeah.
It's like a pass-through set, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool. Because it's pretty often, right, that you sort of assign to something and then want to use it, and rather than having one thing which
that's one of those things that I was excited about, and then when I started using it over the break, I was like, I could just like cry.
It's funny, like blueprints are the things where
have you found the love of the math expression node yet? The macro generator?
No.
Oh my God,
it's pretty awesome.
It is amazing.
For a while, dude.
If you could actually, we should include a set in that. I think then it would just be amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Multi.
So those things. Okay, so the blueprint merge tool. This is something that. So just to back up.
And diffing, right?
Diffing. Okay, so yeah.
Well, start with diffing. Yeah.
So step back. So one of the things that we've always wanted with blueprints is to try and give them a sort of full-featured programming workflow. So that's why we have things like a debugger. That right from the beginning, that was really important, that we'd have the ability to do the kinds of things in blueprints that programmers have been able to do in Visual Studio and Xcode and stuff. So we've had a debugger for a while, and one of the things that programmers often do with code is diff it. So let's look at what's changed since they last checked it into their source control or whatever. And often when you're trying to fix a bug, you kind of need to know, hey, what was it? This broke in this version. What did we change in that version? So we added quite a while ago a blueprint diff tool where you can take a blueprint and compare this version with some previous version, and it would graphically show you what had changed. And that's super useful, but what a lot of people are asking for is that sometimes they would have, one group of people would work on the blueprint and someone else was working on it, and they wanted to combine those two changes. And so what we've now added, and we've been working on for a while, is a merge tool, which basically lets you take 2 copies of the blueprint, compare the differences, and then pick which pieces you want to combine.
Is this merge primarily on the event graph, or is this like
it does both. So basically, this has been one of the big improvements that we've done, is that you can now each of the tabs, so you can merge defaults, you can merge the graph,
and
you can merge components as well,
and function graphs as well.
Yeah, and so it's a pretty huge undertaking, but particularly on larger teams, when you might branch your game to do a demo at some trade show or something, maybe GDC, you're coming along to show off on our booth.
Yeah, totally.
Then
wait, I can do that?
You can.
Chance, holy shit. You should blog post about that.
Hang on, about the, there's an event coming, right? Yeah.
Like
Okay.
It has games there.
Yeah.
There are games there.
So this is something that we've been working on for a while because we've had quite a few folks asking about it. And this is one of those things where there's been a lot of discussion on the forums about like a text-based representation for blueprints, and we did think about this internally about whether that's the way to do this, but we do feel that merging a blueprint as text is something that's going to be really, really hard and really sort of error-prone.
Well, and potentially like a one-way path, right? I mean, I think you lose a lot of value.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, being able to see it visually when you're merging it is such a better way than like if you've ever tried like copying a blueprint and pasting it into Notepad and seeing what the text representation of a blueprint looks like, it's pretty hairy.
Yeah.
So we've gone down this road of using a visual tool. So the disadvantage is you have to be in the editor to do it, but the advantage is it's a custom tool for a custom job, and we can really make sure you're not going to end up with a completely invalid blueprint. So,
and luckily you can run it with a convenient command line option.
Yep.
And so you don't really have to have that editor up. That it'll
it's
come
just
up.
the load time really. But again, we're trying to improve that stuff as well. So.
I see. Like ultimately, just even being a standalone version, but it is the engine, right?
Yeah. So you could take like Perforce, say, or Git, and use it as your diff and merge tool for that file format.
WinMerge or whatever.
And I should say that we do have diff tools. You know, a lot of assets can be diffed as text, and there's an architecture in the engine for building new diff tools for different asset types. So if anyone's interested in doing some cool additions to the engine, we would love more like diff tools in the engine.
How about the full-blown level diff? We've tried that in the past.
So that's one that stands a decent chance at text format being useful for it. We talked about that too. Right now there is some bulk data in there. Like you can have light maps, and you can have big vertex color data streams in there that aren't super great as text, but
this is map to map.
Maps are basically a big list of actors and component properties, right?
And they're far less linked than blueprints are most of the time. There tends to be a whole bunch of standalone actors, whereas blueprints are hard because there's so much connectivity that trying to like
it's a bunch of references that if you break one, you've kind of ruined.
So anyway, so that's like a big thing that we've talked a lot about and thought a lot about is trying to improve this blueprint workflow so that we have these really powerful tools. That it's not a toy, right? Blueprints are a serious tool.
The one thing that I'm so excited as an avid blueprint user on a laptop that it's not in 4.7, but it's definitely in 4.8, right, Mike? Is the single screen layout like we're actually going to get the editor more
optimized?
That's
for 4.8, yes.
Okay.
4.8 we're
contentious still.
It's going to happen. It's going to be awesome. Single screen users rejoice. 4.8.
We're going to do our best to make it a little more single screen friendly, and also just kind of like tweak out the editor layout defaults so that things aren't kind of crushed when they come up, and like if something feels like it should be in a tab versus in the center of the screen, it just is. Like just kind of do a nice pass of that. We're going to do that.
It's going to be amazing.
It's one of those tools where people live in the blueprint editor, right? And any change you make, you got to be sure that it's not making anything worse for someone, because it's like sand in your eye, right? It's just going to frustrate. So
people get very finicky about those things.
So another change we need to make that we should make sure this is for.
Wait, can I bust out my full wish list?
No, actually, maybe I should just.
Okay.
Oh, well,
how about multiple returns of functions? That's the only other one I asked. That's the only other
multiple
one.
exec returns?
Actually,
No. Like multiple outputs, right?
Oh, do you know? Do you know about expand enum as exec?
Oh, is there? No, I don't even know what the hell.
Okay.
Did you speak English to me right then?
So there's a cool feature. Oh, this is probably a huge tangent.
Go for
is it cool?
It's a quick version.
I'll post the blog by the way.
Well, tell me. I'm excited. 30-second version. What is it?
Any enum input can be turned into multiple execs instead. One exec for each input value.
So you just return that, and
so that only works on inputs right now, but we're going to add it to returns as well. So it'll be an enum output value, which could basically be look like multiple execs in the node. Anyway.
All right. So I look for the blog post.
Yes.
Cool.
So the other thing I was going to talk about with blueprints is we added more options for ticking. So before you could set this, you didn't really have a lot of control over whether a blueprint ticked or not. Basically, when you stuck down a tick event, it would turn on ticking for that blueprint. So we just exposed some options that let you control turning ticking on and off. So it's a good way to optimize your game. Not having redundant tick functions not doing anything.
So to be clear,
bad.
Ticking for actors is always on by default. Ticking for components is usually off by default.
Ticking is off, but ticking is only enabled when you put a tick event down. So an actor will not tick. But the way it had was before, that once the tick event was placed, it would always tick. But now we've basically given people the option to there's blueprint accessible functions for whether it ticks, and also when you place an actor in the level, you can just choose whether it ticks or not.
So that's actually a question I've had too. Like, if you have the tick function in there, it is being fired.
Right now, yes.
Okay.
And but sorry, But with this release, you can now, even though you've got the tick function, you can turn off ticking through a function
toggle
or through the property
whatever.
window. And later on, we definitely have on our roadmap the ability to do things like tick frequency, so that we'll be able to like have something that ticks less often.
Do you remember, I think it was on Nano when we did this, like doing some sort of analysis at runtime to recommend certain objects shouldn't be ticked or
Wow.
James did a ton of this stuff, I remember.
No, because at one point we were working on a prototype of something. It was just like way too many things in a level, right? And so we were looking at all these sort of tricks of how do you
tick
do
frequency
less.
is useful there,
Don't underestimate how important it is to optimize ticking in your game.
Oh yes, do less. That is the key.
Yeah.
So
Do less.
Do less.
Absolutely.
Always
can
do less.
we scroll down that list a little bit?
Come on, Chance.
Blueprints
Jeez.
is one of those topics where we never mention on these, but in the release notes you'll see every build expose a lot more engine features to blueprints.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always I think the mentality around here is very much like a feature's not done until it's sort of blueprint exposed. I mean, the online team have been spending a lot of time exposing more and more of that stuff. I mean, it's just like, we don't see it as like the blueprint team's job to do this. We see it as every team's job to expose those
definitely.
things.
No, it's a core part of the engine, and we will stay committed to, you can build the entire game. Every aspect of the engine should be accessible through
anything
blueprints.
that possibly makes sense. Maybe writing rendering code
Well,
is.
and honestly, I believe like the ultimate. I mean, there are certain games that it's perfectly fine in blueprints, or maybe if it's your proficiency in C++. But I do think there's a magical hybrid of blueprints for some things, right? Especially for rapid prototyping or more event-driven gameplay logic, and then C++ for the features that are best suited for it.
I mean, that's certainly how we build things, and that's sort of the
since
that seems to be the sweet mix. Is you have your programmers focusing on systems, and you have your anyway.
Cool.
It's philosophical.
It's more fun to talk about.
So next we had some hot reload stuff. I
Not
want to talk
again.
about a few programming things. So hot reload's better. Every release, you guys know I come on here and talk about hot reload.
I would say,
Always
isn't
better.
this number 4 stream hot reloads, Mike Fricker?
Actually, I'd say the last one. I think I didn't even get to talk about all the cool stuff because there's too much stuff and ran out of time.
All right, get it out.
No, I don't even have it here now, but it was in the release notes. I wrote it up for the release notes.
Okay.
But anyways, in this version, we finally got class defaults, loading, reloading. Basically, everything should hot reload now that you change. We don't know of anything else that doesn't work yet. So before we had some problems if you change your
Is that a
class.
challenge?
Can
we don't know
phrase
anything
that a
else
little
that doesn't
differently,
work.
I would
please?
love to know about things that don't work. I want to see
Please
people
find
using this.
things.
So
Okay.
keep the editor running, build your game with the editors up, never shut it down, and tell us what's wrong. That's what we want. That's the ideal experience for me.
Cool.
Okay, there is one thing I know about that isn't reloading right now. Right now, if you make something blueprint callable, it doesn't appear in the blueprint editor without some refresh.
Unforgivable.
So we're fixing it.
Okay.
I just found that today.
I don't know if you saw, by the way, Mike, somebody accused you of hating blueprints. What's the deal with that?
I'm looking at the C++ side of things.
Is this like a gradient of code to,
Yeah, it
to
is.
visual right
the
here?
unfortunate, we've created it.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention, I posted this on the forums at one point, but we're going to be removing support for Visual Studio 2012 in 4.7. So 4.6 is the last one where we support that tool
So
chain.
3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So just so you know, heads up, it's time to move on. If you want to, you can use the GitHub build and try and get 2012 working. Some of the plumbing is still there, but we're not testing it anymore. And we really haven't been for a little while now. And we're focused on 2013 and 2015, and then that comes out soon.
Oh, did they announce that product?
Yeah, so
Okay,
the
great.
CTP's out, and
Cool.
I don't know when it's coming out, but we're usually on the ball with trying to get we're working with Unreal pretty quickly.
Yep. Cool.
Cool. So any other stuff you guys want to talk about here?
Well, just call out on 2D. Nolan's back on the case, and other dude's name. Sorry, I slipped my mind. Adding more features there. Specifically, we're calling out tile map editing improvements, and then flipbook component collision. Ooh, that sounds useful. I don't know.
Collision of flipbooks.
Yeah.
Collision on flipbooks is neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have a different collision for every frame.
Well,
if
yeah,
you want
because
to.
each frame
Yeah,
could be
we'll have a
dramatic.
different thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Cool.
Especially if you're driving, which frame of the flip. I mean, it can be your
Yeah,
visual.
yeah.
The whole character is a visual representation.
Yeah,
be driven
exactly.
by the
Like,
flipbook.
yeah, I always pictured like some Venom-esque character, right, with crazy tendrils and
Yeah.
stuff.
A whole bunch of tile map editing improvements have been made. I think
Yeah.
that feature's still a little experimental, but
Yeah.
Tile mapping.
Yep,
For
Yeah.
2D.
tile map editing in 2D. But
Yeah.
it's like I know Nolan's just been working on it
Yeah,
like crazy.
and similarly on UMG or UI editor, Nick Darnell's still pushing along. Let's see, timeline snapping. Oh, widget binding system redesign. That'll be fun.
Yes, that's awesome because basically this lets you bind. You can bind really easily now to pretty much any function or property.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's
and
fairly
it's really efficient.
Yeah, it's a bit unintuitive right now if you don't do it quite the way the system expects. So
And there's also seemingly a couple of ways to handle those kind of tasks too, right? Like, so if there was one way that really did that very well and elegantly, I think that would be super awesome.
Someday, yeah. I think UMG is one, like many of the tools that we brought online over the years that we're far from done. I mean, it's usable. People are making great things. There's a lot of functionality there, but we have a lot of ideas.
I think as with so many games, it's the kind of tool where when you have a lot of suggestions, that means you're probably doing something right? It's the tool that you use and you don't have any suggestions for that's probably got problems.
Yeah, I tried to use Cascade over the break, by the way. That was a little rough.
Just wait for Niagara.
I successfully eventually made beam emitters and ribbon emitters. I'm proud of myself.
I think there's still some of my code in that tool. I think it's quite a problem.
Yeah, hey, you did. It is your fault. I remembered that while I was cursing at my screen.
I spent like a week.
Like, James!
And it's still in there, so sorry.
Okay. It's all his fault. Cool.
Shall I talk about animation stuff a bit?
Let's talk about animation.
Pressing on with animation is a topic close to my heart. So some cool stuff that's coming in 4.7. We've been working for a while on multi-threading the evaluation part of animation, and that's been in there for a little while, but we turn it on by default now. So that should be a good performance gain if you have lots of characters in your scene and sort of multiple cores on your computer. It'll use multiple threads to evaluate all the different characters in parallel. So that's pretty cool. The event graph part where you actually set up the blends is all done on the game thread, so you can still access safely any of the kind of game state, but all the actual heavy lifting, decompression and blending happens on multiple threads. That's cool. We also double buffer the bones now. This was something where this has been a problem for a long time, where if you asked the bone where it was, depending on where you were in the frame, it would sometimes return the result. Like, let's say you had a guy with a ponytail or flapping cape or something, where you had physics and animation going on the same character.
Interacting,
if you asked it halfway between the animation and the physics results being done, you'd get like a kind of an intermediate result. Whereas now we basically double buffer, so we only flip the buffers when the entire pose is finished. So that should solve a whole class of issues with that. Something really, really cool that Lena did is recording animation from physics. So now you can go into FAT and you can throw your guy around and record that as an animation,
which is awesome.
Which is awesome. So if you want a death animation, even if it's a placeholder, right? You can just get the physics asset, simulate, like toss them down, poke at them, and now you've got an animation that you can just use as something else.
Even better, you can do it right in the world. Like, you can set up a scene and go into simulate mode. And then throw your ragdoll down the stairs of your carefully contrived scene, and then select the object and hit K, keep simulation changes, which you could do right now, but you just couldn't do it with animation. Now you can keep simulation changes, and I'll ask you if you want to save this animation as something.
It's almost the same, like, so you can do that with things that would be physics objects in your game, like dropping rocks down the hill.
And that's been there a while.
And then save that, and then bring it back in as an animation.
Yeah, so you can do that too. So you can can it and have that sort of reproducibility. And
so it's not being driven by physics at that point, though, right?
You just used it as a way to generate it.
Yeah,
so that's super cool. Really, really nice feature. Cool. We've also enabled you to overdrive morph targets. So that's like vertex deformations.
Sounds so good.
It sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's kind of a bug.
Well, it was. We stopped you from doing it before, and we've basically gone through and
why would you stifle the artist's creativity?
This is a fun bug.
It used to be between 0 and 1, but there are definitely cases where you want to
go further.
Push it. It's like
to
this
11.
one goes to 11.
Right.
Ta-da.
And that's actually that was actually quite often requested. That there's some really cool creative stuff you can do when you push beyond that. So
cool.
You can do that now. And then animation layer editing is a really cool feature as well. So what this basically means is you can author. There's sort of two parts to this. One is you can create animations from scratch right inside the editor. This is really helpful because if you're prototyping, if you're a programmer or someone who doesn't know how to use Maya, you can now rough in animations right inside Persona, inside the animation tools. So that's super helpful. And the other side of it is you can have an existing animation and edit it non-destructively. So if you have an animation where someone looks at something and you actually need to tweak the head a little bit, you can go in and just tweak the animation. It stores that as an offset from the original. So when you re-import the animation, it keeps those modifications.
That's awesome.
So basically having some basic, we're not trying to replace Maya or something as an animation editing tool, but having some animation editing in there is just super useful for that prototyping. Awesome. I mean, it's trying to really make it more fun and easy to make games. It's like, I've got this idea, I don't want to have to go and find an animator and everything. It's just
Well, at the same time, too, it helps you on that. Like, you have this long chain of, the art pipeline, and if you get to the very end, it's like, it's a tiny little thing. Like, we have to start all over.
One of the things we added a couple of releases ago was the ability to scale on import. And that was always annoying. You get a mesh, you just find some mesh somewhere, and it's massive or something. And it's and you have to go and edit it or whatever. So now you can just scale it on import, and you don't have to.
That's awesome.
Gosh, it feels like how far could we be from just let me make my animation from scratch rather than having to additive on top of it.
Oh, no, you can make it from scratch.
Yeah.
But it's just not much fun. I mean, it's our
Not
tool,
the most
tools are
intuitive,
rudimentary, but it's totally it's doable,
Right.
and that's.
We don't have
really
any animation rig support.
Yeah, you don't have
like
rigging.
you wouldn't have.
But
I
you
didn't have
could
in
use the default rigs, yeah.
I mean, but being able to like control end effectors and
Yeah.
stuff, we want to get there, but we have to be careful, right? It's like we don't want to spend all our time building animation tools.
Maybe we can encourage the community to.
Absolutely, and this would totally be the kind of thing that if folks are interested,
Well,
we'd be
what I
interested in
find myself
taking.
doing as well, somewhat related, is I would call mesh creation via component. Like, oh, if I take a cube and a static mesh and scale and distort and combine it, end up trying to create my little meshes for prototypes.
I think we'd like to get more of those
Or
kind of
like BSP to.
Yeah, I mean, you
static
can
mesh,
you can take BSP and convert it to a
Yeah.
static mesh. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got lots of ideas of ways that we could.
Just make that an actual first class workflow.
Yeah,
thing
I
in the
mean, maybe
engine,
even like auto rigging or something, so you can have a mesh and like
that'd be fun. Can we? What was the game with the dynamic creatures and they'd automatically figure out how to walk?
Spore?
Spore. Yeah. Why don't we just do that? That was easy, right?
Epic Friday, right?
Epic
Wait,
Friday.
so we're just
Easy.
building Spore now?
You got that
We're
chance?
building all the things. We're building
Yeah.
Visual Studio and
Cool.
for
Maya.
and Word, and yeah, it'd be cool.
What
So-
else?
If I author an animation with the animation layer tool, can I get it back into like Maya or Max?
Yeah,
or
you can,
Blender?
you can
Export
export an
them?
animation as an FBX. So what you
Cool.
can do is you could stub in an animation as a programmer just to try out a move
Right,
or
and
something.
they can use that as
and
a-
you can give it to the
yeah,
animator
yeah.
to like say, hey, can you give me a half decent
Well,
version of
or
this?
even for like timings and for notifies and all that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's super
it's,
awesome.
That sounds
Good
really
job.
fun for prototyping.
High
Yeah.
five
Because you
to
can build
Lena.
out a level and then make a little animation in there around your level, right? That
Yeah.
kind of fits the
Yeah.
metrics of your level.
Yeah.
And
So it's all trying to like make it more fun and make it more productive and just like trying out an idea, like
Yeah.
going shortening the time from idea to
Yeah.
to trying it. So
And yeah.
cool.
Awesome.
Okay, there you go. That's anim stuff.
All right.
High
That's a
five.
lot.
do
Yeah.
we have time to talk about some of the future stuff, Chance? Or how
Should
are we
we
doing?
Q&A?
No, we're here. It's 2:52. Unless you guys got a bold heart at 3, we can go as long as y'all want.
I want to go over a few of the cool future.
Yeah, let's do it,
kind
man.
of
Sorry, I
stuff.
waffled too long on animation.
All right. What's next?
No, it's good.
Thanks, James.
Yeah, I know.
Actually, do you want to give an update on feature packs? I think we did mention it. In
Yeah,
the
I'll
4.6
keep
stream.
this really quick. So we're working on this idea of feature packs, which is basically rather than having to pick these templates when you create a project, those are really useful, and we see a lot of people using them. But it's often hard when you create a new project to know which one you want, like knowing quite what's in it, and knowing, well, I'm not quite sure what kind of game I want to make. I just want to start and play around, and maybe I'll want that feature later. So we're adding the ability to add most of those template features after the fact in something we're calling feature packs.
Yep.
And so it'll be in the content browser, there'll be an add, there's like an add content button, and basically that will give you a list of what is currently pretty much all the templates, and you can then add those later. And you could add more than one if you wanted to. So if you're making a
Gotcha.
game which involves like a GTA game, you've got third person and driving, you can just add both of those templates in.
Well, and the community will be able to create their own feature packs.
Right, and
Yeah.
We're also shifting all the
Super
starter content
awesome.
to be
Yeah,
a
feature
pack as
pack.
well. So if you create a
Thank
project,
God.
and now you're like later on, I could really use that starter content,
Or
you can add it later.
what happens is I always forget to uncheck that, and I'm like, why do I have? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it just
I
jumped in my
agree.
tub.
Yep.
It is
Yeah.
useful though, because then I'm like, oh, I need a material. Oh, that'll work. Close enough, right?
So this is something that we were hoping to squeeze in 4.7, but I think it's going to be 4.8 now.
Okay. Does this include anything I bought off the marketplace? I can just bring it
Not
right.
yet. We want to get there.
All right, well, there's some time before 4.8, so you can get
there
on
are
that?
there are some
Just get on that.
some technical hurdles that we are absolutely working on.
Okay.
But for the moment, it's only going to be the templates and the starter content
For the moment.
For the moment, but we want to expand that
Yeah.
more. And make it more
Eventually,
fun.
it'll all be from the content browser as your go-to place to
Yep.
pull
Yep.
things in
Definitely.
and export out, right? Okay.
But we just think we're also going to try and do a better job of telling you when you add one of these packs what was in it and talk you through it. So
Cool.
Yep.
All right. What other awesome feature?
Okay,
feature-
so on the roadmap we had, it's got picked up on the forums, and some of the code's in GitHub already, this thing called ecosystem.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
want to mention it real quick. But basically this is this kind of, it's still experimental, super experimental, but it's a solution for procedurally placed foliage. It could be eventually procedurally placed anything, but right now it's
Well, and it's procedural in the like having some intelligence behind it, I guess, right? It's
Right.
not
Right.
just
So-
random parameters.
Yeah.
like the workflow right
Set of
now,
rules.
you plop it down a volume, or actually the way that it works is you plop down this kind of procedural foliage actor, and then you associate an object with it called an ecosystem object. It's probably, the name's going to change.
It's so experimental. The name is
Yeah.
experimental.
That object, you define all kinds of rules for, like, what goes there, the density, the altitude requirements, kind of like cool just procedural rules,
The
random
timberline.
seeds, and then also a size constraint. It's like a tile of procedural stuff, say. and then you can control where that goes. You can mask out sections using another, like a blocking volume. You can say like, hey, I want procedural grass everywhere, but where I'm going to place this cabin, because I don't want grass inside the cabin, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And it's fully deterministic, so you can go in there and tweak out things and re-simulate, and you get the same results unless you change the seed.
It's kind of biologically based, right? It's all about like seed propagation, and
we'll probably try different things in the future. But
right?
this version of it is like this kind of neat thing where the more iterations you do, the more seeds drop and more things grow. But you don't have to use it for vegetation. You could use it for rocks, and it's just kind of a neat algorithm.
Yeah. Trash in the street, something like that. Yeah.
But I mean, the idea obviously is lets you fill a world really quickly with tons of crap.
Well, not with crap, but with interesting content.
No, just crap.
Unless you want to fill it with crap. Crap can be interesting.
Poop worlds. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So
all right, that's awesome feature.
We're hoping that'll be experimentally enabled in 4.8, but it's gonna obviously it's a big project.
Yeah. And for the adventurous, right? Always you can grab it from GitHub.
Yep. But this is kind of like we've mentioned many times over the last few streams, Ray and I, that supporting larger worlds, better streaming, better tools for creating large worlds and filling these things with awesome stuff is really important, and this is just part of that initiative.
Yeah, just and really understanding it's not enough to technically support it, but like allow people to actually reasonably build that content. You know, it's hard.
Can I mention the hierarchical LOD quickly?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So another project we're working on to sort of as part of this large world thing is what we're calling a hierarchical LOD system, and what that basically means is being able to have a group of meshes and have one mesh that replaces that group of meshes. So it's pretty common that the normal workflow in Unreal is if you want to build a cabin, for example, you'd use a whole bunch of meshes. You'd have some wall panels and some roof panels and a chair and a bed and some pots and pans. And so you end up with several hundred objects that makes a cabin, and that looks really cool when you're inside the cabin or close to it. But as you move away, you can't really support a whole village of those cabins because there's just too many objects. And so what you need is some LOD system that replaces that cabin of 100 meshes with like a single mesh. And so the first thing we've added so far is that you can manually create an LOD and associate that. I'm not sure this is in 4.7. This is kind of what we're working on right now. But you'll be able to, what we want to get to the point is basically it'll automatically generate an LOD for groups of meshes, and it'll just swap to that lower LOD at some point. So awesome. lots of work to do there, but it's a cool feature.
Definitely.
Cool.
All right. Let's see.
One more, or are we going to switch to questions?
I think we're good. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Cool. All right. So we got a few from the forums and a number from the chat. And if you guys have anything that else you guys want to hear about, drop the question into the chat, and we'll see if we can get to them today. So off with that. Here we go.
Okay. Optimization plans for mobile 2D in the future. I don't know about 2D specifically, but we are kicking off a new round of mobile optimizations and actually some feature work. It's still early days in planning, just understanding exactly what that is, but looking not at the high end necessarily of devices, because I think UE4 we're doing pretty well there, but sort of the mobile mid tier, which represents the largest number of mobile phones out there, and a lot of this too is just not even looking in North America, but in we've got tons of Korean developers now in UE4. Japan and whatnot, where a lot more mobile games going on.
I think there are some plans for 2D, like batching sprites and stuff like that.
Is that specific to mobile or just general 2D optimization?
I guess that's just like paper 2D stuff rather than mobile specific. Fair point.
Yeah, cool. I'm surprised Nolan isn't on the stream correcting us. Right. Sorry, Nolan. All right, non-Z gravity. That's a James question.
Is it?
Yeah,
probably is.
You're the physics guy.
So yeah, we absolutely want to support non-Z gravity.
Z.
I've been
you had to go there
too.
So like we totally want to do that. There's sort of two parts to this. One is just like making sure that all the places where currently gravity is just a Z component is a vector, and there'd be some like backwards compat stuff we'd have to work through there.
Yep.
We'd also like to get the character movement to support arbitrary directions.
Right.
So this is like to be able to like walk, do the full like Mario Galaxy thing, right?
The old Fizz Spider type stuff.
Yeah, so like you want to basically separate orientation of the character and gravity for the character.
Right.
That's a bigger job, although we've actually got a pull request today from someone. I don't remember the name, which is like the foundation of it. It's not it's not done yet.
Sweet.
And there's a little bit of scariness because we don't want to make it slower in the case where
the common case isn't. Probably.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be some trickiness. Anyway, long term we want to do the character stuff. Hopefully in the not so distant term we'll get like physics and stuff to work with non-Z gravity. So
cool.
Yes, it's on the plan. I care about it. Mike cares about it. It'll happen. I just need to We just need to like get it in there and start working on it. So
ideally, we can support multiple influencers to the graphic.
Yeah. We've had a lot of the other tricky thing is that
well, there's especially for space-based planet traversal games, right?
There is going to be some performance overhead because you have to like touch all those objects to change their form. Anyway, I won't bore you with the gruesome details.
But we'll opt in.
There's some
We'll just make it work.
We'll make it work.
What's next?
All right. So we talked a little bit ecosystem and foliage.
Yeah,
right?
I think we covered that pretty good.
Cool.
Just ongoing improvements.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I mean, no real timetable other than we're working on it. Cool stuff will happen there. Niagara. Well, the update on that is we're giving it a new name. We're going to figure that out.
I came up with Niagara, so I'm personally invested in
Good. We definitely need to change it now, Mike.
Yeah.
If James likes something, we
Delete
shall
it.
kill
Cascade stuck. That was me.
Cascade? I'm okay with Cascade.
Okay.
And the other part of this is sequencers. I think there's minor improvements for sequencer under UMG needs, right? But other than that, we haven't really, what we would call sequencer really kicked off development there in earnest yet. But it is high on the high list of things we want to get to for sure.
We have like what we think is a great design, but we want to, I think we're going to refresh the design and kick off those conversations hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, and I think the scope is broadened a bit. You know, when longest time looking at from the needs of like game cinematic versus with UE4, you know, developers are doing a lot more variety of things with the engine.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more we could potentially do with a sequencing tool. So, yeah. Cool. New content examples, not for this build, right?
I don't. Chance might know better than me.
No, not that I've seen on this. I'd have to talk to the content teams and that. So nothing that sticks out though.
I am pushing for us to get. We've talked for a long time about how do we have a good pipeline for sample game content and template games and content examples and all these things, because they're not only obviously useful to you guys, but they're incredibly useful for us to firsthand be using the engine in these ways, find the quirks, address them right there in the moment.
I mean, there's been some cool sample projects that have come out recently with like the spline one and the UMG UI inventory stuff.
Did you see what we did on Tuesday with
real time?
Ian's we did a live training on Tuesday.
What did Ian do?
Ian has a procedural room generator.
I've heard about it.
It's it's built by Rays, so he just does all these things.
Built by Ray?
Rays.
Yeah, Rays. So we put 2 or 3 Rays in the engine.
And that gives you an array.
That may be too many Rays.
So Ray is going to be downloadable from the launcher. No, from the Learn tab. No,
I'm excited.
We've got a cool project. You can check it out.
Download myself. How's this work?
It's really weird. We have to send you the content team to chunk you. It's a long process. But no,
will I survive? Yes.
That's coming to the launcher. The Learn tab. Sometime next week, I believe, is what the timeline is on that. So there's going to be a lot more of that kind of stuff for sure in the future.
Cool. It's not here, but I saw it in the stream pass by. We were talking about C++ documentation. That is a hot topic.
Jeff hopped in on that on the stream
cool.
as well too.
So Jeff is on it. In fact, that was what I was going to say. So good job, Jeff.
Which Jeff?
Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah, which Jeff?
Multiple
what
Jeffs
other
now.
Jeff? Oh,
actually,
Jeff Ferris.
Both of them.
Anyway.
Let's get Jeff Ferris on it. Let's get Team Jeff.
Let's put the Jeffs on it.
All the Jeffs. C++ documentation now.
If you work at Epic and your name is Jeff.
Doesn't matter if you know C++.
We have some ideas for C++.
All right.
Yeah.
Really crappy drawing the lottery.
Just thank God your name's not Chance.
No.
All right. Large world support coming, future versions, more procedural large world support. Yes, I think we
covered that.
Yeah.
We're working on our beginning of really cool large world tools.
And I would say this is something that will be many months of effort. It's not a single version that will be done, right? So look forward to talking more and more about that. Let's see, blueprint component support. Do you guys want to talk about that?
Let me have a look. What's remove natively declared?
I think that.
I think that stuff is all sort of planned. So
natively declared optional components. That's a lot to take in.
It is. I think I know what that means.
They're reading a big paragraph of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of those questions are too kind of on this. It's like we have blueprints that are actors. Is there any way to bring that same functionality to the components?
So blueprintable components.
Yeah, we like the idea of blueprintable components. One of the things we didn't talk about earlier is, because it's really kind of gruesome under the cover stuff, but the blueprint team are working on some rewrites of some of the really low level blueprint systems that should allow that. That should just work after that. So that will hopefully be
4.8 actually.
4.8 is the hope. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. We're kind of counting on it.
Yeah. So that's something that, it might not be, we might have like loads of examples of it by 4.8, but the groundwork should be there to make it possible to, and that's great, right? Because you could blueprint a component and then just go and like stick it on, reuse it on multiple actors, and that'll be a huge workflow.
That'll be a win.
Yep.
Hey, just to jump around, UMG widgets apparently not working in VR. Chance, can you make sure that gets tracked so we actually go fix that?
Yeah, I think that's that should be a bug.
If it hasn't been fixed, we will fix it soon.
Yeah.
So Blueprint network improvements for 4.7. I know we touched on that. This has been a focus, right? I don't know any specifics, unfortunately, but maybe we could have.
It's been ongoing, I think. Is the network team are just continuing to expose more.
Yeah, they're just exposing more and more. I saw some things in the release notes today, and I know there are a bunch in 4.6.
And we really appreciate people on the forums and stuff bringing out particular things that we've missed. That's always helpful to get more eyes on that stuff and let us know what we need.
I like that question. Can we expect Tim Sweeney on Twitch? I'm gonna guess probably not. He's a little not the happiest with cameras, but we can always ask. I think the best way is we should just ambush him one day, Mike.
I think Dana just wants to save him for like the big. We're not like, I don't know what it is. But no.
Well, I saw people joking about Unreal OS. When we announce Unreal OS, we'll make sure we'll get Tim on camera.
Awesome. Yeah, he's waiting. He wants the most important thing, to be honest.
Did you ever use like Unreal 1? Because maybe you wanted the command letter would say Unreal OS.
Yeah. No, you remember what his nickname for himself was, right?
No.
The Creator.
Oh, good lord.
It was very Tronish. Yeah, it was very cool. Anyways, release timeline for 4.7. As soon as it's stable, our sincere hope is that we're within, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks is our current timeline, but it really is dependent on how things go, right? As we fix bugs, as bugs are discovered, because we're really committed to, we don't want to call it 4.7 until it's solid, right?
Yep.
So.
Right.
That's what these preview releases are for.
Yeah.
We'll shake the bugs out, right?
Yeah, we plan on having more other preview releases.
Oh, I love this question. Is James serving as a sundial? Yes, that was the intent of having James
tall and thin,
lanky with the light. Yes.
Oh yeah. I'm not used to sunlight. I live in England, so it's
quite cloudy
nice.
this time of year. Yeah.
I was smirking earlier because I was reading the chat log, and they're like, "There's a funny light on James's head." It's like James is ascending.
Yeah. He is divinity.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
All right.
But anyway, that on 4.7, like to reiterate, we are going to have more preview builds of that, so you'll see that kind of lead up to it, and the cadence should be pretty regular to what we've done in the past, right? Like
it's
supposed to be one next week, and then one maybe 4 or 5 days after.
As we get closer, I would hope that the cost of getting a preview build out there with the latest fixes, and the number of fixes going into those should reduce, right? Otherwise, we're further out. We'll play it by ear. Cool. Scrub serialized blueprint. You want to take that?
Oh, good.
That's a scary question.
Can I read that paragraph? Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a question best served by Answer Hub or something.
Yeah.
Scroll down a bit, Chance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Vertex painting. Ooh, we need to work on that, don't we?
Yeah. Easy way to set up vertex painting, like a specific tool to combine textures.
Yeah. It's a bit not the greatest UX right now.
I'm assuming the question is because when you do vertex painting, you're not going to see the results right away, right? You have to set up material that's going to actually use those vertex colors for something, and often you want to do like a blend mask between textures, right? The vertex paint tool has some built-in support for that. You can set it to blend mask mode, and as long as you set up your material, this is where, like Ray was saying, like ideally it would do you a favor here, but right now it requires you to set it up yourself. But if you set up your material for blend masks, then it will let you paint pretty cool.
This reminds me a lot of kind of the state of Cascade. Is like if you have all the stars aligned, it's magical and you can do what you want. It's just when you don't have the stars aligned, it's not immediately obvious what is missing. Right?
Yeah,
it's really hard to design the systems though, where you have all that power to build crazy configurations. But
we still.
Yeah, we have to do it. I'm just saying it's hard.
Excuses.
Yeah, we tend to have a set of requirements right from the get-go because some of these features or these tools are driven by products here, or needs of our artists, or important requests from subscribers or licensees, and so we have some requirements that are sometimes fairly advanced right from the get-go that we absolutely have to hit. So
I would say always very advanced from the get-go.
Always very advanced from the get-go. So sometimes the usability gets compromised. This is something that these days we take very seriously, and we try to avoid having kind of shitty UI out of the gate.
Well, and also of like leaving you in a broken state, or in a state where it's not clear what the next step is. I know, like talking to Nick and Olaf about Niagara with the new visual effects, is that we remove that, you change the setting and everything disappears, right? Like it's more of like I don't know how it's actually going to work, so it's miracles as far as I'm concerned.
And we've all been talking about this, especially in the last month or so, just kind of we'll probably start leaving some of these big features, especially the front-facing ones, in incubation a little bit longer, like in experimental mode. We'll give them to you guys right away, but but we won't have the big fanfare, this is done right now, and it's perfectly awesome until we've had more cycles of usability feedback.
Yep.
So this is just something that we're going to learn to get better at. I think we have to.
Cool. So blueprint per component, we talked about that?
Yep.
4.8, yep. Detail pane of certain property? I don't know.
I think that means using blueprints to do
favorites.
details customization.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's any plan for that at the moment.
It's an interesting idea, yeah.
There's a couple of things
So-
we set like
so
min-max, but not a lot
The
more.
question is, has there been, which one is
Any
it?
thought on customizing the details pane of certain properties through blueprints?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I'm not aware of anything.
I think that would be...
Oh, this is a fun question.
I mean, like I said, there's some you can do a little bit of stuff, but not a lot. Only the metadata type stuff.
I got B from hell. If you had $20 million game budget, or 20 million rupees? I don't know. what game would you make? That's a tough one.
Point-and-click adventure.
Really? You're a King's Quester?
Yeah.
Oh.
Monkey Island.
One
Monkey-
point-and-click game?
Monkey Island is okay.
That'd be cool.
I don't know, 20 million, what does that even get you these days? Like for like a big game budget?
I don't
You
know.
could do a pretty awesome game
Yeah.
with 20 million there, buddy.
What have you been doing?
We've done
right?
real actually.
Hate you too much, jeez.
I'd probably do some kind of sim thing. I'm like a flight sim or
Uh,
space sim. I'm very like,
Space Sim, yeah.
yeah.
I think I would go back and try to finish my text-based roguelike once and for all.
20 million.
I wouldn't really,
text
I wouldn't really
adventure.
need the 20 million, but they'd be amazing ASCII characters, let me tell you. Here, James. Animation editor, what about allowing an IK chain so you can capture that as an animation? So that should work with...
That doesn't work right.
it should with the simulation thing,
I
right?
think that I'd have to try it. I mean, you can right now grab the end effector. That's something we added a release ago or so, is being able to grab the end effector and interactively move it around.
Yep.
And I think that may or may not capture if you were recording when you did that. But yes, that's something that we would like to get to work
We
if
could
it
make
doesn't
it work.
already.
Yeah,
Yep.
totally. Cool. We should talk about this one. Can we explain when a wish from a Trello's roadmaps backlog will be made real? There are a few that are a couple hundred votes that would like to see in the near future. This is always a tricky one. All things being equal, we'd probably love to do 90% of them, right?
I mean, generally, we haven't put anything on the roadmap that we don't think we really intend to do.
Yeah, well, I think this might be also, we have a few things on there that are sort of like, we have no definite time to get to this, right? But yeah, when, is it a year out, 2 years out?
We really think it'll happen, but just when.
And also just how we represent ask from the community on that, like new sample games and whatnot. I guess, I don't know, what is our answer? We will get to it.
And we do look at those votes too.
Those they matter.
Yeah, they totally matter.
Sometimes though, there are things where there are things we need to get done first. So
There is
that
a
can
sequence
that can
of
be one of
things,
those.
right?
One of those reasons.
Yeah.
Or we decide that wow, we got a lot of votes on this. We need to rethink. We're going to make a small thing, but clearly it's a big topic for people. So things like like for a while there was like an RPG template, and we started thinking about that more. It got a lot of votes, and we're like, this is clearly a bigger thing than we were.
Much more complex,
than we initially thought. So we need to slightly rethink about how we task that.
And also, there's targets of opportunity. Sometimes it's just the right time to do a certain feature, or it's a resource availability thing. Sometimes certain things are best done by certain individuals or team members, and they're busy on, it's like pipelining problems, right?
I wonder if it's possible to reset the votes so we can kind of get a better snapshot of what do people want now, because there's things that are added later on to the Trello.
Fair enough.
It's a bit hard to know kind of. Yeah. It was very popular. When we first did the roadmap, but is it still?
Do people go there anymore?
I don't know.
Maybe when we update the roadmap, we snapshot the current vote counts, post them in the forum post saying we updated the roadmap, vote again, and we can look at the trending. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, not a bad idea at all. And with that too, like some of those items are, significant effort moving forward too, right? Like, and it's like you say, it's a pipeline of humans and where that actually might fit into the grand scheme of things. So.
Oh, I see a question there about Razer's OSVR. They just announced that at CES, I believe. I saw Nick Whiting did post in the forums today. We will support it.
This is the open source. Headset idea.
Yeah, exactly. So they have like an SDK. So
interesting.
ideally, our VR interface it's just yet another thing we can plug into there, right? Same with like Samsung Gear VR. Like I believe support for that is fully enabled at this point, right? Cool. What else? We talked about some of these stuff. The draw call batching. Yeah. Future of shading on mobile devices. I think that's one where we can revisit maybe in a later stream. We're in the middle of a planning update right now, so. Cool. All right. Any other last big questions before you guys want to wrap up?
Let's see. Why are
James
there
is
no,
typing furiously.
why are there no cat videos in the monitor?
Well, James is allergic to cats, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I am actually allergic to cats.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
But not cat videos. just the real thing.
Someone asked for a 2D version of the Unreal Engine.
I was actually responding to that right
Oh,
now.
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, the idea would be really just to improve Unreal Engine to be, great.
We have our hands full with one Unreal Engine, so we'd like to kind of stretch it over. I mean, we think it's great for 2D games now. We know it can be better, but I don't think we'd make one just for 2D games.
Yeah.
It would be hard to know what features you would lose that you would never need in a 2D game.
Yeah.
It can be a blurry line between 2D and
I mean,
pseudo 2D.
that game earlier on, right? That's kind of a 2D game,
Yeah.
but that's using a lot of 3D features.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hybrid too, right? Where you've got specific things that are rendered as quads, at a specific depth or those kind of.
But I will say, like, if you want to make a game that I mean, I think we proved this out with Happy Chicken and some of the simpler games that we've seen the community release. You don't have to use every feature of the engine. We want to make it easy for you to create games that strip out.
Scales down.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
you should be able to chop out our features are generally, these days, designed pretty modularly, and you should be able to chop off the stuff that you don't want and not have to pay any price for them.
I would say I know we've made some improvement last year of exposing that stuff, but I think it is an area we need to improve discoverability of, like, the fact that you can turn off a lot of rendering features and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these have just fixed costs even if you're not utilizing them directly, because we need to set up the scene or whatever to make them possible. So.
Yep. One of the steps is like making that option when you create a new project, right?
We make it a obvious choice up front. Unfortunately, they don't need to be binding too. So if you change your mind, you can always go back and turn things back on, right? Actually, I think there's a lot of value in like with actor ticking. It's sort of philosophical. Do you opt in to ticking actors or opt out, right?
Yep. And there's something that we've been talking a bit about, when you say we've been making some like stress test maps with lots and lots of characters in, and to optimize those, there are some flags that you sort of need to know about to turn on and off, and so we've been talking a little bit about ways that we can maybe build better tools to help you find the key,
better profiling,
the key settings. Or just like you can have a button that's like, make this faster, and it would like kind of make suggestions and stuff like that. Real speculative stuff, but long term, that's some stuff we might like to get into.
Yeah, generally, if you find something slow, or you don't know why something's slow, there's generally like some go-to settings that if you're experienced Unreal developer, you know what they are, but we need to surface those better.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, we spent a lot of time on UE4 trying to remove, looking back between UE3 and UE4,
tons of obscure flags.
Like lots, like can we do the right thing all the time without needing to ask the user? And a lot went away, but that's
right.
A lot.
I didn't want to lose it. Somebody asked about audio. This is your thing now. Did we actually hire an audio engineer?
We did. So on Monday, Aaron McLaren is starting, and he is an awesome audio guy.
Allegedly. We'll see. He's got to prove himself.
I suppose so. But I'm just gonna have faith. I'm gonna believe. That he's
you're a better man than me.
So he's starting, and obviously that's going from hiring someone to awesome audio engine. There is some
4.9.
some time there. 4.9. So anyway, but that's definitely a significant step for us. It's the first time in Epic's history.
Yeah, we've been trying to hire an audio. Yeah, it's always somehow landed on somebody else's plate, and
so we've got some big ideas on where we want to go with that, and it'll definitely take a while. But that's exciting.
I remember I was excited to talk to Aaron because he had so many crazy wild ideas. Like I thought I knew audio, and then clearly there's a lot to learn.
He's a passionate man. It's going to be great. I mean, hopefully in a little while he's going to be based in Seattle, but when he's out here at some point, we'll definitely get him on the stream. I'm sure that people would be excited.
That'll be fun
to talk to him. So
cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right. Well, we've been going a bit. We'll probably wrap up it.
Yeah, we're up about 20 minutes or so.
It's fun.
This is great. Yeah, so thanks a lot, guys, for coming and chatting. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. It's really glad to see everyone again, or see the camera.
Yeah. Thanks for all the great questions,
good looking
guys.
camera.
It's been fun to be on this rather than the other side.
Yeah, I know.
We're
so glad James could make it too, right? Like, you have to come back over again. We'll just have to bring you out every other Thursday.
I just send my robot next time.
Yeah, so.
Oh, yes.
We've been actually trying to get Robot James. I don't know if we've mentioned this in the past, but James.
He walks around the office from
the UK.
No,
he rolls around.
rolls around the office.
Into hell.
It's an iPad on a Segway. It's about yay tall.
Yeah.
And he just takes possession of one and then rolls to the office.
I will definitely cruise in here.
It's pretty great.
Excruciatingly slow speed.
The only thing that we haven't solved yet is how to get the mic on it appropriately. And what happens if the network goes out and you die?
Yeah,
it'd be
tragic
really sad
for everybody.
So,
Okay.
But yeah, we'll be back next week, the same time on Thursday. We've also got a support stream with Sean here on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. They're going to be covering Blender, bringing Blender into
very cool.
to UE4. So yeah, that's going to be the topic there. So we'll have an announcement of that. An announcement up on that soon, so you can ask questions, and those guys will be able to knock it out for you. So, we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
See y'all.